Hello, my friends. This is Gene from Regular Guy Mountain Biking. I am very excited to have my good friend Mark Larson from SR Suntour on the podcast with me today. How you doing, my friend Mark?
I'm good. Doing really good here.
Mark and I have tried to put together this podcast for quite some time. Most of the fault is on me for asking him to constantly reschedule. I've actually lost count of how many times we tried to do this. So I appreciate your patience, my friend, but this is cool. I'm really glad that you found the time to jump on with me today.
Yeah, I'm excited to be here.
So who is Mark? Well, Mark is a contact that I work with over at SR Suntour. I'll let him give some details in just a moment, but SR Suntour has helped me out with a lot of my builds in regards to suspension and cranks and drivetrain and stuff like that. They create some wonderful products, and it's been wonderful working with them. But Mark, maybe you can explain to the audience your role with SR Suntour and what you've been doing over there.
Yeah, I'm a marketing manager, and I specialize on the media side. So I write press releases, write articles. If you see something on Pink Bike, I had my hands in it.
Gotcha.
I work out, do the dirty work out on contracts and ad placements and that type of thing as well. I was on the sales and service side some, but now it's mostly just marketing. Although, we're a smaller company here in the U.S., so I wear many hats. Sometimes I'll be building forks or building bikes or doing whatever is necessary. Yep.
What's your actually? I never even talked to you about this part. What's your world in mountain biking or biking in general? I never actually. We always keep talking about parts and builds, but we never actually had a chance to really kind of like just chat. What's your history with bikes and stuff?
Well, in high school, I started road racing. I mostly specialized in criteriums and time trials. I'm a bigger dude. Did some track cycling.
Gotcha.
And then mountain biking was just starting to get established, did a couple races, and then went to college and kind of got away from it a bit. But then I live in Madison, Wisconsin. There's a ton of bike companies here. And
Gotcha.
I started back in the industry with Pacific Cycle, who owned Schwinn, GT, Mongoose.
Right, of course.
Worked there for several years. And then there was a little weirdness there where Cannondale bought them, and some of the jobs is like we had to move to Connecticut or Pennsylvania. So I stayed put. So did some other people. And then Darren, who was our general manager, started working for Suntour and became the general manager of Suntour in the U.S. and put together an office, and we've had a bunch of different employees from that generation and some other people. And here we are, and now I ride everything. I Zwift, I mountain bike a ton, road bike, gravel bike.
Awesome.
I ride bikes every day. So
it's kind of once you get the bug, it's kind of hard to get it out of the system, right? I mean, I had a little stint where I stopped for a little while. Don't really remember even why I stopped, and now that I'm back into it again, I'm like, why did I stop? I can't stop this. I love this. It's hard to get it out of the system. Once you do it, you just love it. You love it.
Especially with mountain biking. Like there's times I'm not training, but I'll always hit up the local trails for something. It's not cycling. It's just fun.
Yeah. Well, let me explain what's going on here and how I know Mark and what's going on. So, one of my buddies, he was working. He's another YouTuber, was doing some work with SR Suntour, and I was working on a project that needed suspension. And I'm like, look, dude, do you have a contact over there? Would you mind if I reached out to them? And I did. I reached out to Mark. Rolled the dice and kind of figured out, worst you could do is say no. And if you said no, I can't help you, Dean. Well, I'm in no worse case than I was before. I still don't have any suspension. Right? So the worst that could happen was no, where I was already at. But luckily, it wasn't the case. Luckily for me, Mark and SR Suntour were kind enough to help me out and see the value in the channel. And that's how I've been getting my suspension, shocks, forks, and my cranks. So we've worked out an arrangement and blah, blah, blah. Here we are today. And I wanted to talk about them because not only are they helping me, I'll be honest, folks, it doesn't make a difference if someone helps me, but the product that they help me with is a piece of junk, and I'm now riding something that looks silly and doesn't work. It doesn't help the channel, doesn't help them. So the relationship has built over time because they've built some very, very quality parts that are doing wonderful for my builds. So I want to continue the relationship and finally have a chance to get on the podcast. So big thanks to you, Mark, for supporting me and the channel and everything, because it's been a huge help. I've got a new build coming out that no one knows about yet. You know about it, but no one else does because we've got more parts coming. So it's been a great relationship. And, you know, I just want to make sure I thank you again.
Well, you're very welcome. Big YouTube fan, big fan of your channel. And
thanks.
I consume all the media I can when I'm not participating. So,
well, I appreciate it. All right. So look, before we get into all your cool stuff, I want to kind of address this elephant in the room because I have to, I don't want to say deal with it. That sounds negative. I speak to this often when I promote your products. Quite often when people think of SR Suntour, they do quickly think about the big box stores, right? They're thinking about those, you know, maybe the lower end shifters or the cranks with everything attached to each other with the gears and everything. And though you do build those parts, fine. You also build some very high-end parts that we're going to talk about as well. So I just was hoping maybe you could speak to that, Mark, and where SR Suntour fits in this whole mountain bike world or biking world in general.
Yeah. Well, none of our stuff is truly super low end, like at Walmart stuff. It is the big box, more like the Dicks and stuff is our starting price point. But on those same products, you know, that's what Trek is putting on their Marlin bikes and everything. And we're just about getting more people on bikes. You know, we do a lot of research and make everything stronger than it needs to be. So any type of rider, from the bike path rider to someone that's just going to send it, is prepared.
Right.
But we do have, you know, like you say, lost in the shuffle sometimes is our high-end product. I mean, we just won the Olympics on our fork.
Yep.
You know, we've won Mega Avalanche, World Championships. You know, Mick Hanna just retired, but he's rode our stuff, and Tracy Hanna as well.
Yeah.
You know, so we just, you know, kind of like Shimano or something, we make the range.
Right.
You know, where Fox and RockShox stops at a certain point. Mm-hmm. We just make the full range for everyone, you know.
Yeah. Well, I'm actually really glad you brought up Shimano because I don't think people connect the dots like that enough. A lot of people are Shimano diehard fans. That's all they want to run. Their brakes, their drivetrain, that's what they want to run. But Shimano also makes some more entry-level parts for bikes like you were just mentioning, which is awesome because at the end of the day, we just want people riding, exercising, smiling, having fun, right? What's the difference? As long as people are getting out, why would you want to hinder that in any way? So it's awesome that you're doing that. And so Shimano has very similar catalogs when it comes to parts. There's entry-level parts to get people going, and certainly high-end parts, which SR Suntour does the same thing. So I'm glad you connected those dots because I think people need to realize that a lot of companies do this, and the goal is to just get people off the couch and riding and having fun, and that's awesome.
And we also, like, on those low-end forks and all the forks we make, we have our QSP philosophy, which is quick service.
Right.
And you can re-lube and tune up your fork in about 10 minutes.
Yeah.
If you need to, you can swap bushings even on those lower end forks. You know, it's very functional for someone that actually delves into it and sees what the value is.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of people just like, oh, I see this fork, I'll just upgrade that someday. But there's a lot of good in those forks that, you know, that people just kind of overlook until they actually ride it.
No, I agree. And we're going to definitely speak to that because is it the AXON? The AXON. I want to make sure I had the name correct. The AXON, that's the one that I've been using. And we'll speak to this, but I'm blown away on how easy. I've done a video on this. My buddy Tuki Hauser, he did a great video on how to adjust the the travel and the fork. And I'm glad you enjoy your regular guy mountain biking mug. There you go. Beautiful, beautiful. And working on your forks is very, very easy. So we'll definitely, kind of touch into that a little bit. But cool. So you've got quite the catalog. In fact, if you go to the SR Suntour website and take a look, there's actually a link to open up the catalog, and it just goes on and on. The amount of forks, and we're talking like forks that go from cross country racing to full on double crown, DH forks. So you have it all.
Yep.
I'm very, very impressed by the catalog. You've got everything. Is there anything specific that you focus in more on, or really you folks are just looking to create suspension across the board? Because you have a lot of stuff. I didn't even realize it until I looked in the catalog. You guys really cover everything.
Yeah, we pretty much everything from gravel forks to comfort bike forks to we even make a suspension seat post.
Yeah, yeah.
But when you're looking at the high end, our from XC to downhill, it's all World Cup proven.
Yeah.
It all just works.
Yeah, it's going. You guys have, again, I have it over here. Gold again. Tom strikes gold in Tokyo. You've got the UCI Mountain Bike World Championships. Then I follow you guys on Instagram, obviously, and I'm just looking at like these high end riders doing some crazy stuff, all on your equipment. So that's just a credit to what you guys are putting out.
Yeah, and it just like our philosophy is just to make stuff that works, and and doesn't annoy you. It doesn't, it's overbuilt, so it's e-bike ready. Nice and strong. And I think other companies are kind of following that, making their stuff e-bike ready, but our failure rate is so low.
Well, because it's so easy to service these things. So let's actually talk about that. And then I have over here, I was just bringing up on the screen a few of your different technologies, so we could speak to them. What makes your suspension, and maybe we should also break it in between fork and shock. We'll divide it up a little bit. But the biggest thing that I found so attractive when working on the fork that I have, the AXON fork. Am I pronouncing that correctly? AXON?
AXON, yep.
And I'll make sure I put a link to the video, and I'll also put a link to Tugi's video as well, because I learned a lot from my buddy's video on how I set up mine. He's awesome. To change the travel in this fork, it's literally like changing the tokens for the air volumes. It's that easy. You either add or remove these little spacers, and you can go on the ones that I'm using. I'm not sure if it's 100 or 110, but I think the maximum is 140. And that is really cool to be able to just adjust that level of travel. So why would someone want to do that? I mean, for me, it's great because if I want to have a bike maybe tuned a little bit more for racing or, climbing hills or something, and then maybe I want to take it to the bike park or do something more with it, I can just literally change those spaces. So, Mark, that is a great feature.
Right, and that's exactly it. You can mess with your geometries. Instead of buying an angle set, you could maybe throw or take a spacer out and add 10 millimeters of travel. And if you go to the bike park, I live in the Midwest, but if I travel up to Colorado, I'll bump up the travel a little bit.
And you can. I mean, I know with previous forks that I've had, you pretty much had to tear apart the leg and get a whole new cartridge on the inside to change the travel. And that was a bit intimidating. In fact, I honestly just didn't do it. I asked my bike shop to do it for me because you kind of get a little scared when you start messing around with some of that stuff. And I was very, very surprised with how simple it was to adjust the travel and of course the volume spacers just as easy in the other leg.
Yeah, we've recently introduced our EQ system, which will hopefully get you on soon too. But on that one, It's just an assembly that swaps in and out. So it's, where you're putting in the clips, you basically just take that part out, put in a different one.
Oh, wow.
So it's, it's maybe 2 more minutes of work, but it's pretty simple still.
Pretty simple. So that's still awesome. All right, I'm going to take a look. I have your webpage over here. I can't remember everything. So yeah. let's talk about some of these different technologies that you do have. So and from the top, you happen to have one called the EQ system. So maybe we can just talk to that a little bit. Oh, so for precise and effortless tuning. So let's talk about this technology. What does this do for the user?
So basically, it adjusts the positive and negative chambers automatically. So you basically just inflate it and kind of cycle it to make sure it equalizes. And then those two systems should work, in pair with each other exactly. But then you can add air volume spacers to adjust the ratio. And we have a chart buried on our website, but it's there, that shows how many air volume spaces is recommended. But so if you wanted more progressive or more linear, you can just do that.
Based on your riding style and weight or something like that, it helps you figure it out.
Yeah, riding style, weight, and kind of your goals. If you're doing a lot of fire road XC stuff, it's different than if you're just going on a nice rocky trail.
Right. I gotcha. I read an article not too long ago, because I want to go through a few of these other systems, but a lot of them seem to just make your life easier. When the reason why I'm bringing that up is because the article was more focused, or not more, it was focused on a shock, but the article was around do we really need all these dials? And for some people, pros that can really feel it, you might, but for the average regular guy in the channel, right? I mean, that's what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to help folks like me that are just love the sport, but don't have mechanics that are going to tune their bikes, right? So it sounds like the EQ system is something that would help them, right? It's just like you'll figure it out for me, right? You
right. There's a air pressure chart on our website and a recommended air volume, and a lot of those forks would ship with the recommended air volume for that travel anyway.
Gotcha.
And you could tinker with it if you want, but it should be good for 80 to 90% of the riders.
That's awesome. Because I'll be honest, 80 or 90% of the riders aren't really looking to mess around with it too much either, right? They just want to go and ride, which, respect to them. I mean, that was the goal. You didn't buy the bike to play with the shock pump. You bought the bike to have some fun. Yeah. What is this PCS system? Okay.
Yeah, so it's, a lot of cartridges have like a bladder system. So the cartridge, if you're hitting a lot of high repeated hits, doesn't cavitate and get air bubbles. And ours is really simple because it's spring backed.
Okay.
So a lot of them, they're like air bladder. So if you're getting into where you need to rebleed the cartridge, it's a lot simpler on ours because it's just a spring that's always there and not something you actually have to set each time.
Gotcha. Yeah, because I also remember when I worked on my fork, I didn't have to worry about oil all over the place. So how do you address that? Does that have anything to do with what we just talked about, or am I completely off topic? I'm sorry.
It doesn't really, but it's a good point with our our QSP philosophy. Ours is just lubricated with grease, like slick oleum, slick honey, something like that, and doesn't have an oil bath. So you don't have to drain it and refill it and have oil everywhere when you take it apart.
It was really easy to work on.
You just drop the lowers, clean it up if necessary, but if not, you can add grease, even between days of riding. People 2 days of enduro, they'll do it that next, between stages, and
gotcha.
It's possible to do.
I also like the QLock system. It's pretty intuitive. So the QLock is the quick release. So where did that come up with? Because it's actually pretty cool how that works.
Yeah, it's kind of something that was a little bit over-engineered, I think. But it basically makes it really easy to remove the front wheel.
Yeah. I do agree with the over-engineered. I mean, it is a more complicated. Not complicated to use, but what do you,
Right.
you flip it, you unscrew it, right? On other ones. And this one, it's a pretty cool thing where you kind of push it in and it pulls the little things back. I mean, folks, this doesn't mean anything to you. Maybe I'll try to put a video up on it or something like that. But it is pretty neat anyway with the way it works.
Yeah, it's easy. It's tool free, and
Yeah.
Once you set it once, then the setting is always the same, and it's pretty handy. And you just take your wheel off in like 10 seconds and be done with it.
Go. Well, and that helps for folks that might need to take their front wheel off to put their bike in the bike rack, whether they need to put it in their car.
Yeah.
A lot of folks have trucks that they don't hang the wheel off the back. They put the fork in a rack. They have the little clamp, so it does make it easier to be able to get that off than constantly unscrewing and through. And you kind of wonder, are you going to strip those threads over time?
Right. I have like the Allen bolt on my rear one. It gets knackered out a little bit. It gets harder each time, and I think if I got on the trail with a little tool, I don't know if I could get my rear one out right now.
Yeah, that's how it is on my e-bike. It's brutal to take the through axle off the back. In fact, the only way to do it without stripping it is you have to have two Allen keys, one on either side, and you have to kind of work it together, because if you just try to do the one, it's just going to strip. So it's kind of, I mean, I purposely don't mess with it too much, because I'm like, what's going to happen here, So it's kind of like, whoops,
Mm-hmm.
All right, cool. So are there any other systems in the fork? Because I want to talk about the shock in a moment. Anything else that's special about the fork? I mean, you've got all the different dials and levers and whatnot, but anything else that I may have forgotten that I don't want to leave out for you?
No, I mean, we just have, depending on which model you buy, different compression and rebound adjustments. Mm-hmm. We don't make too many adjustments, but, if you need a lockout, that's available. If you want just compression and rebound adjustments, that's available.
Right.
Varying things. Where for XC, Tom Pidcock won the Olympics on an electric system that they're kind of working on. So
I wasn't sure
that's
if I was allowed to talk to that. We talked about that earlier, and you're like, so you kind of
we have no details.
Yeah, but that is pretty cool. The fact that you are dabbling in electric. I mean, folks, that just kind of lends itself to the fact that SR Suntour certainly is on the bleeding edge of technology. I mean, they're building and using in the real world electronic controlled suspension. That's cool. I know you can't say too much, but you may have already said as much as you can. But it is a pretty All right. Well, maybe one day we'll get to show it off to somebody. I don't know if that really is very applicable to the regular guy. Maybe we'll just do a video and you can hold it up one day, because I'm more the setter forgetter type of guy. Yeah, even if I remember what the heck everything does, I'm pretty happy with that, So let's talk about the shocks. What are you guys doing in the world of shocks? The ones I've been using are more air shocks, but you do have coil-based ones too. Is that
we do have a coil-based shock. It's kind of tough to get. It started to come out right around the time of the pandemic, where we kind of had to focus our priorities on the stuff that was already established.
Yeah.
But we have, a full range of shocks, from XC to trail to downhill and enduro. We just came out with our Trier 2. So our Trier 1 was a very popular piggyback shock.
Okay.
Made for enduro bikes and trail bikes. And now the Trier 2 is similar, just has a little bit different leverage curves, and it actually fits more bikes. The piggyback was kind of in the way on the other one.
Oh.
So
okay.
The piggyback on this one is twisted a different direction. So it just kind of St. Bernard's neck,
So what would someone want a shock like that for? Because that certainly looks a bit more advanced. Is that more of an enduro kind of send it type of shock?
Yeah, definitely for enduro. There's more air volume, and thus you make more air volume adjustments, so you can fine tune it better. But it also, take those big hits a little better and dissipate heat a little more. Has a few more adjustments.
Gotcha. I might have to mess around with that on the Nomad over here because
it also is like, it's just got bigger bushing. Everything's bigger, so it's stiffer and
it's kind of badass looking. If anything, it just kind of looks cool when you roll up to the the line. It's like that's I don't know. A lot of us just buy things because they look cool too, and that certainly does look cool. Yeah, that's awesome. Oh man. So as far as e-bike stuff, I see some things here and there about e-bikes. What do you do in regards to e-bikes? Is it just making it more burly, or what has to be considered in suspension and e-bikes, and what do you guys focus on?
We focus on stiffness and make sure it won't fail. Mm-hmm. So you're gonna have added impacts. People be riding it more, and the bikes are heavier, and you're going to be trudging on a higher bike weight and more watts of input to the system. So everything is just stiffer, so it works better and tracks better and is stronger in case there's an issue or.
No, I've noticed that because clearly e-bikes are way more. I've got a Norco site, and it's a great e-bike, but it's not a weight weenie. You pick this thing up, and you're like, oh my gosh. But on the other hand, when you start going, it just plows through stuff because it's so stable. But a bike with that kind of weight, and I could understand where you'd have to consider that when you're building these products, because you've got a hell of a bike coming off a jump, right? And you've got see, people always think that e-bikes are faster than regular bikes. No, you look at some of my friends' Stravas when they go down the hill. They're going just as fast on whatever, give me a break. But take into consideration that same person going down 20, 30, 35 miles an hour down a hill, hitting the rock, bouncing off stuff. Okay, fine. But now you're doing it with like a 45, maybe 50-pound bike, right? So that's a lot more that you have to take into consideration when you do stuff like that.
Right. And, if we add 100 grams to the fork to make, thicker wall thicknesses, and you tune the cartridge a little differently because the average system weight on that's going to be 20, 25 pounds more,
right?
Just things like that. We also test everything to a certain e-bike standard.
Gotcha.
E-mountain bike standard, so all our forks that are tested to that have a little E symbol on the website or in the catalog. So
yeah, that's awesome. That is awesome, because it's a growing market. Again, people can debate either way. We don't want to go into that in this video because I don't have to answer all those comments down below. But at the end of the day, it's a rising market. Certainly more in the over the UK or that side of the other side of the pond. It's a lot more popular over there than over here in the US. But it's certainly growing. I've got a lot of friends that were kind of like not really interested. All of a sudden, I see an Instagram with a picture. I'm like, is that an e-bike you're riding now? And they're like, oh, whatever. I'm like, well, hey, I'm not picking on you. I think they're awesome. They're a lot of fun. Anything that puts a smile on my face. Come on.
Right. It's a slippery slope for some people, but like once you ride one, it's like, oh, this is, when you're doing a boring uphill and it's actually just like riding single track. So it just like doubles the fun in that regard. And I don't know, it just gets, if you only have an hour for lunch and you need to, your trail is a mile or two away and you just power out there quick and get some lunch laps in. Otherwise, from here, by the time I get to our closest trail, I can do maybe a half a lap for I start thinking about riding back. And
I went out recently with the site in winter. We're in winter here, right? It's cold. We got snow. And oddly enough, I was expecting the e-bike to do better in this, but it didn't, because it's so powerful that the torque kept breaking free. The back tire, it was very hard to get going. But regardless, it took a while to do the ride. I'm out there, and then all of a sudden it started getting a little bit darker, and I'm looking at where I'm at, and I'm sitting here thinking, okay, I got to a point in the ride where I had to make a judgment call. If I make a left, I've got to take more trail home. It's getting cold. I'm all by myself. Things were really kind of icy. If I take a right, it's a little bit longer and I have to take the roads. But I'm like, I'm on my e-bike. So basically, I took the right and just took a safe way home. But it was a way that I was able to kind of just get back to the car a lot easier.
Yeah.
So anyway, don't want to divert the conversation from you guys, but just there's a place for everything, and it's a lot of fun.
Yeah, for sure. It takes a lot of like the mountain bike part that's kind of considered a slog out of it, and
right,
makes that fun too.
Indeed. Now I've also been using your cranks, so I mean they've been doing a great job for me. I got no complaints. And anything to offer around that, or basically just Gene, just keep using them. They do a good job. I mean,
yeah, I mean they're pretty standard issue thing, alloy arms and the nice wavy pattern, so you don't lose the chain. It's
no, I gotta
just seem to work, and
the narrow wide works great. I don't have any chain drop. It's been doing a good job. I mean, it's a crank. I don't want to, I'm not trying to belittle it either, but, there's so much more to talk about with a suspension than with the crank, but
we haven't, it's just something that we do. We haven't really like pushed the limits, or we're not trying to make the lightest crank. We're just trying to make one that's functional and strong, that'll work with the corresponding fork products. And
no, they work
just
great.
Another alternative to race face or anything.
Right. No, they work out good. One thing I wanted to ask you about, and the answer may just be no. Can you take the ring off those? It's a proprietary ring? Like if I wanted to put more of an oval type ring or something on, I think it's locked on there. Is that correct?
It's a proprietary ring and fastening, so you can't switch to oval, but you can swap them.
Cool. Good. I'm pretty sure, like folks, you can if it wears that, you can put another ring on there. That part's cool. I just wasn't sure how that whole thing worked, but they've been working out so great for me that I just keep on riding them.
Yeah, we have varying ring sizes if you ever need a replacement. And
I have to keep it around the 30 tooth, man. I just don't have the strength anymore, man. I look at a 32 and I'm like, there's just too many teeth. Too many teeth for me.
It also matters on your trail and riding style. Yeah. It's not all about power.
Definitely, you're right. So we've been chatting for a little while. Let's kind of talk about where you see SR Suntour going. I mean, obviously you can't open up any trade secrets or anything that's coming out, but just in general, what's the future for you guys? What's got anything cool that's coming up that you can talk about?
Well, we just keep trucking, making, improving, making incremental changes to the lower end things. We do try to keep up with the trends as well. Mm-hmm. We have a Duralux 38, so it'll be our first single crown 38 fork that just came out for the really rowdy and the e-bike crowds. If you're, it's going to be free ride and enduro.
What's the travel on that?
Up to 180.
180 on a single crown. Yeah, because we watched. My gosh, I can't believe I forgot his name. Oh, jeez. Oh, the guy that just won the last Red Bull Rampage.
Yeah.
And I don't think he was riding your fork, but the point is, it was a single crown fork on Red Bull Rampage, and he was able to go and do bar spins off of some ridiculous drop. I mean, I wouldn't be. I'm afraid of heights. I couldn't even look over what he dropped. But the world of single crown forks is just sick, dude. I mean, like, just insane what you're doing.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at, if you go to the bike park, there's a lot of single crown forks there, and people are doing some pretty gnarly stuff. And so this is just our entry into getting even stiffer and stronger for that market. And
yeah. I mean, I run a single crown on my Santa Cruz Nomad, and it's fine. I mean, I have no problem with that. And 180 millimeters of travel, that's a lot of travel. I mean, that's certainly plenty of travel to take it to the bike park, right? In fact, once you start getting to the double crown, like I think what I like about a single crown fork is you're still within the world of multi-purpose use.
Correct.
Right? I mean, you can take that bike. Okay, you're not fully choppered out yet, but you're certainly a little bit higher. But you can take that. You can pedal it. You can use it as your one quiver type of bike type of thing. Clearly, it's focused more towards a particular riding style, but you could take it elsewhere. You get a DH bike with a dual crown. That thing is that's up there. Not always that high, but in general, I mean, geometry is always changing. But you're not pedaling that thing. Most of them don't even have the drivetrain to even offer you the ability to pedal it. You know,
and there's for every bike park, there's so many trails that aren't lift accessible.
Yeah,
and you need to be able to pedal to the top.
Yep.
So this kind of helps with that.
Yeah, one of my favorite trails at Mountain Creek, that's our local bike park,
Mm-hmm.
is Blueforia. And one of the reasons why I love that trail is it's a mix. It's more of an enduro-based trail. You do have to pedal. There's sections where the guys with the DH bikes, they know what's coming. So they're like, they're getting some momentum, because you're going to be pedaling through these sections. It's probably my favorite trail because it's got the gnarly, freaky stuff. And then you've got your pedal section. And I think that's probably what I like most about the enduro kind of bikes, because the technology is going so far that you can do just stuff you never could do before on bikes, but the bikes are being built in a way that you can use them for multiple purposes.
Right. It's just basically it's a mini downhill sled that you can pedal. So
Exactly. It's pretty awesome. Well, look, I want to thank you again, Mark. You folks have been so kind to me. I love using your products. Thank you for my shirt and everything. It's going good over here. Yes, folks, I'm a fanboy. I don't have any problem saying it. It's a wonderful relationship. I'm very, very, very lucky to have this relationship. And by all means, I hope to do everything I can to continue it. And Mark, you've been just wonderful with allowing me to work with SR Suntour.
Oh, well, thanks. We appreciate all you do. And it's been great to watch your channel grow. And
thanks, man.
We're having a good time.
Cool. Okay, well, look, that's going to do it, folks. Gene from Regular Guy Mountain Biking, Mark from SR Suntour. Again, Mark, thank you so much for getting on the show. I'm so glad we were able to finally plan this and make it happen.
Yeah, this is great.
Cool. Well, when new stuff comes out, my friends, we will get Mark back on. We'll talk about some of the new technologies little by little, because I'll try to keep up with whatever I'm using. And these are always great ways to get the vendor on the phone, which is pretty awesome, and talk about stuff that we might want to make a decision on whether or not we want to purchase, but we're kind of like, it's a big commitment where we're not sure. So being able to talk to someone like Mark about things that are coming out is just always helpful to everyone. So with that, keep the party on the pedals, my friends. Again, thank you, Mark. You're awesome.
Thank you.
I appreciate you guys for everything. Yes. Cheers, my friend. There we go. Take it easy, everybody, and take it easy, Mark. Thank you.
Thanks.